I curse you today, King Beloa. Your daughter will become a woman, but every time she dresses, no matter how she covers her body and appears decent, she will always appear half naked in the eyes of the people, and this will bring disgrace to your throne. Your reign will be remembered as shameful, and so it shall be.
Once upon a time in the prosperous kingdom of Dananê, King Beloa was known as a noble king, renowned for his fairness in judgments. But the mistake he had made years ago, an incident he had long forgotten, something that happened when he was much younger, a curse placed on him years before, began to have repercussions on his beloved daughter, the princess. That evening, as King Beloa crossed paths with an old beggar woman, her clothes betraying the hardships she had endured, she extended a trembling hand toward the king. But instead of showing her compassion, the king responded with a voice as sharp as a blade. "Is this why you look half naked? Even in poverty, one must maintain an appearance of dignity. Get out of my sight and do not disturb me again." With a heavy heart, the beggar was disappointed. In anger, she cast a curse upon the king. "I curse you today, King Beloa. Your daughter will become a woman. But every time she dresses, no matter how she covers her body and appears decent, she will always appear half naked in the eyes of the people, and this will bring disgrace to your throne. Your reign will be remembered as shameful, and so it shall be." The king did not take this seriously. He thought curses were things of fairy tales. He brushed off the woman's words as nothing more than the ravings of a madwoman. But he did not realize the gravity of his mistake, for the seed of the curse had been planted deep within the fabric of destiny, destined to take root and blossom in the soil of his daughter's fate. Over the years, as the princess became a woman, the beggar's curse manifested in unimaginable ways, casting a shadow over the kingdom and bringing disgrace to the throne. But King Beloa's confidence was not shaken by the words of a mere beggar. As the curse began to take effect on the princess, despite the finest clothes and elegant outfits, the princess always seemed to appear half naked in the eyes of others, no matter how modestly she dressed or how much she covered her body. The curse persisted, casting a shadow of disgrace over her every step. Every time she walked the streets of the kingdom, dressed in magnificent attire, people looked at her with condemnation, for all they saw was a half-naked princess instead of a well-dressed one. The whispers and glances followed her like a dark cloud, though she wanted to be seen for who she truly was. "I never wanted this," she thought. "I only wanted to be seen as I truly am, not as a distorted reflection of myself." One day, when a prince from a distant land arrived to ask for her hand in marriage, the entire kingdom waited with anticipation and excitement. The princess adorned herself in her finest clothes, her heart filled with hope and dreams of a future filled with joy and happiness. But when she appeared to greet her suitor, her joy turned to sorrow as she saw the disappointment on his face. Despite her elegant attire and modest appearance, the prince's eyes betrayed him. He saw only the distorted illusion created by the curse. With a heavy heart, the prince turned to King Beloa with anger and accusation. "Your Majesty, I had hoped to find a princess worthy of my position, but instead, I am greeted by someone who seems to dress half naked. How can I entrust my future to someone who lacks the grace and dignity worthy of royalty?" King Beloa, overwhelmed, listened to the prince's words. How could he convince the prince of the truth when even his own eyes betrayed him? With a deep sigh, King Beloa sought to explain the situation to the prince, recounting the curse that had befallen his daughter and the injustice she was enduring. But the prince, blinded by his own perceptions, remained unmoved and refused to believe the king. And so, with a heavy heart and tears in her eyes, the princess watched the prince leave, her dreams of joy and happiness shattered by the cruel hand of fate. Alone and heartbroken, she wept for the future she had hoped for, but would never know. Yet, amidst the pain and sorrow, the princess found comfort in her father's unwavering love. She confided in him, and King Beloa whispered words of comfort and reassurance. "My dear princess, you are so much more than what others perceive. Although the world sees you through a veil of misunderstanding, know that I see you for the beautiful and worthy woman you are." The princess found strength in her father's unwavering love and in the knowledge that she was not alone in her struggle. Though her father was the cause of her cursed existence, though she was condemned to live under the weight of her father's transgressions, it never diminished the love that bound her to him, nor the resilience that burned deep within her soul. The king became desperate to break the curse and spare his beloved daughter a life of ridicule. He set out to find the beggar, hoping to plead for her mercy and forgiveness, but the beggar was nowhere to be found. He gathered the people of Dananei and addressed them. "My dear citizens, it has come to my attention that some among us have judged my beloved daughter, the princess. But I stand before you today to dispel the lies and misunderstandings that have clouded your perception. For the princess is not guilty of indecency, but rather a victim of a curse beyond her control." He recounted his encounter with the old beggar and also implored his people to search for the beggar. Days turned into weeks, and finally some young people returned with information that the beggar had died and been buried years ago. The king was disappointed, but he encouraged them to search for her grave. They searched for days, but in vain. A young boy approached the king and said, "I know where the beggar rests." The young boy led the king to the beggar's final resting place. The king was grateful. He embarked on a journey with his daughter and some of the cabinet chiefs to the place where the beggar rested. Upon arrival, the princess began to weep and knelt before the beggar's grave, pleading for her forgiveness and the release of the curse. The cabinet chiefs also pleaded for forgiveness, and the king begged, "Forgive me, dear soul, for the pain and suffering I have caused you. I seek only redemption and the chance to right the wrongs of the past. Forgive me for the sake of my beloved daughter who suffers for things she knows nothing about. I am deeply sorry." As they waited, trembling with anticipation, a gentle breeze arose, carrying with it the sweet scent of flowers and the promise of forgiveness. They held their breath as the earth beneath the grave began to move and tremble, the curse unraveling before their eyes, like a thread pulled from the fabric of destiny. In a moment of radiant clarity, the curse was broken. Together they left the cemetery, the king's heart lightened from the burden of guilt that had weighed on his soul. When they returned to the palace, a sense of peace spread over the kingdom, and a joyful celebration filled the kingdom of Dananei. King Biloa opened the palace doors to all who wished to join in the celebration. The air was filled with music and laughter. The streets crowded with joyful crowds gathered to celebrate the release of the princess from the curse that had tormented her for so long. Amidst the festivities, the news of the princess's release reached the ears of the prince who had once rejected her. His heart heavy with regret and a desire for reconciliation, he made his way to the palace, determined to seek forgiveness and mend the rift that had separated them. As the princess emerged, resplendent in her royal attire and radiant with newfound joy, the prince fell to his knees before her, his eyes filled with remorse and humility. He said, "Forgive me, dear princess, for the blindness of my judgment and the cruelty of my words. I now see the error of my ways and the beauty that has always resided in your soul." Touched by his sincerity and moved by the depth of his repentance, her heart overflowing with compassion and grace, she replied, "I forgive you, my dear prince," she murmured, her voice filled with warmth and understanding. She continued, "Let us leave the past behind and embrace the promise of a future filled with joy and harmony." And so, amid the cheers of their joyous subjects and the blessings of King Biloa, the prince and princess were united in marriage, their union a testament to the transformative power of forgiveness and the enduring strength of love. Together they embarked on a new chapter of their lives.